Hello and welcome. You're watching News9 Live. Since last evening, a kind of a Twitter war has erupted. And the main players, Congress leaders Jaishankar and Siddaramaiah, and on the other side, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, indulging in a very heated Twitter spat. The latest, Jaishankar has said Jaishankar gave, within quotes, most appalling response, close quote, to former Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah, who had asked the centre to act on reports that 31 tribals from Karnataka are stranded in war-torn Sudan. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar accused the Congress of politicizing the situation of Indians in violence in Sudan and said no electoral goal justifies endangering Indians abroad. The Union Minister was responding to a tweet by Congress leader Siddaramaiah accusing the government of not evacuating 31 tribals from Karnataka who are stranded in Sudan. Siddaramaiah had tweeted, and I quote, "It is reported that 31 people from Karnataka belonging to Hakki-Pikki tribe are stranded in Sudan, which is troubled by a civil war. I urge Prime Minister Narendra Modi and also Home Ministry, the External Affairs Ministry and Karnataka Chief Minister Jaishankar to immediately intervene and ensure their safe return." Close quote. Now what happens after this? Jaishankar decides to respond and he writes, "Simply appalled at your tweet. There are lives at stake. Don't do politics." Close quote. That's what Jaishankar says. Now the External Affairs Minister said since the fighting had begun, the Indian Embassy has been in touch with most Indian nationals in Sudan. He also added that the movement of stranded Indians is constrained by fierce fighting. Now, amid all this political crossfire, the stranded Indians in Sudan are hoping for an intervention, obviously, from the government.
ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಹೋಗಿದ್ದು ಸರ್, ಸೊಸೆ ಇಬ್ಬರು ಗಂಡು ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಹೋಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇಬ್ಬರು ಸೊಸೆ ಇಬ್ಬರು ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಹೋಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಕಡೆ. ಹಿಂಗೆ ಇದೇ ಆಸೆ ಪಾರ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾರೇ ಬದುಕು ಭಾಳ ಜೀವನ ಮಾಡೋಣ, ಇಲ್ಲಿದ್ರೆ ಯಾವ ಬದುಕು ಇಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವ ಭಾಳ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತೂ ಭಾಳ ಕಷ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಹಿಂಗೆ ಏನಾರು ಒಂದು ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೋಗಿ ಏನಾರು ಒಂದು ದುಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾವು ಮುಂದೆ ಬರೋಣ ಅಂತ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಸರ್.
ನಮ್ಮೂರಲ್ಲಿ ಅರ್ಧ ಜನ ಅಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಅಪ್ಪಾಜಿ ಅಮ್ಮ ಅಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಮತ್ತು ತುಂಬಾ ಜನ ಇದಾರೆ. 30 ಜನ, ಟೋಟಲ್ 31 ಜನ ಇದಾರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ನಾವು ನಮ್ಮ ಮೂವರು, ಇಬ್ರು ತಮ್ಮ ಮತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ದೊಡ್ಡಪ್ಪಾಜಿಯವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಅವರು ಒಂದ್ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಲಾಕ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಊಟ ಇಲ್ದಂಗೆ ಅಂತ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
And joining me to speak more on the issue, Anand, who is a BJP spokesperson, and Lavanya Balal, who's from the Congress, both spokespeople. Anand, first question is to you. You know, I somehow think that Mr. Jaishankar actually overreacted. It was a very civil question, what is happening. I mean, forget about elections. Of course there are elections. You can't take that out of the bathwater. But the point is, a Kannadiga, a Tamil, anyone asking about fellow Indians, and in a very civil fashion, that's what Siddaramaiah did. I somehow felt that Mr. Jaishankar just jumped on the entire situation and said, you know, I am appalled. First of all, I don't know why he should be appalled. He's the foreign minister. Number two, he's saying you're doing politics. I do not know why he should be saying that, because he's not really a career politician. Your response, Anand?
See, we have to understand this from the point of view that has been, told by the EAM. One thing is, as far as I know him, and I know him quite well, Mr. Jaishankar is a man, is a gentleman. And Mr. Siddaramaiah, he could have always written a letter or even called him, directly through the offices and, spoken to him about this, because all these are very sensitive matters, especially with the fact that, you're talking something about nationalities on Twitter, and in a public tweet, you go and as a leader like Siddaramaiah, who has a lot of connect and who is followed by many people, the thing goes to many places. And, if those people are identified, because of too much publicity, those people can get identified by some groups. There are so many ethnic groups in Sudan, and if somebody identifies and some harm happens to them, this unnecessary publicity was not required, frankly speaking. And Siddaramaiah ji, being a senior leader, should have understood this. And that's why Jaishankar sir clearly says, I'm appalled. Because unnecessary publicity always endangers lives. especially in these situations.
Not know
Those
where
guys are
you.
war criminals.
First of
Okay?
all,
There
I'm
is
sorry,
no-
Anand. There are two aspects to this. One is you're saying Siddaramaiah ji should have called Jaishankar, right? Now, when there is Twitter, I mean, politics unfolds on Twitter. Life is unfolding on Twitter.
No,
No, wait a
this is
minute,
very
Anand.
important. Very
Anand,
good
I haven't
point.
finished.
Very
Thank
good
you
point.
for your
Very-
patience. I haven't finished. Secondly, you are saying that it is unnecessary publicity. What is publicizing here? We all know that Karnataka, you know, this Hakki-Pikki tribals are stuck there. So what is this unnecessary? Both words, I think, are out of context here, Anand.
No. It is within the context, madam. You have to understand this very well. Okay, because just questioning is different. Okay, and going and in a public mode and telling that, okay, focusing on a question like, what is being done and other things. From April 14, the government of India is doing whatever it can. Okay, it is a war zone. And one thing that you noted, okay, why should the question not be raised? It should be raised. It's not that it should not be raised or anything. That's not what Jaishankar ji is telling. But just to make it a publicity element, okay, and that too in a situation like this. Siddaramaiah ji is a very senior leader. He should know that, right? It's a war going on. It's a war going on, and it's a very serious situation. People can lose lives, and these Hakki-Pikki people, if they lose
And
lives,
what is going on in Nigeria? I mean, you know, you look at Indians who have been stuck there. 45 odd sailors are stuck there. In March 2023, Mr. Muralidharan answered a question in Parliament. Nothing has come out of it. I mean, somehow, Anand, I feel that you're also doing disservice if you're calling it publicity to the late Sushma Swaraj ji, who was called super mom, who did digital. No, I'll come back to you. No, I'll come back to you. Let me just introduce Lavanya Balal.
You're throwing a very serious allegation.
Anand, there is no accusation. I don't make accusations. Wait a minute. Lavanya Balal, welcome to the show. Lavanya Balal, don't you think that when you compare this situation, you know, I just think that perhaps Mr. Jaishankar under duress maybe overreacted or whatever, because I don't think to ask about fellow Indians has anything to do with politics. It has to do with empathy. Now, secondly, don't you think, in comparison, Sushma Swaraj ji did a marvelous job. You remember in 2015 when she rescued so many people in what was war-torn Basra.
Sudha, good afternoon. Yes, if you look at the past, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Wonderfully well. Go on.
Sorry. If you look at the past foreign ministers of India, they have done some amazing job, which includes Sushma Swaraj ji as well, be it the Gulf War, be it multiple other wars where Indians were stuck during different times. Indian foreign ministers have made it a point to put, keep the priority of our citizens' lives and on utmost importance. You know, they have done that. I don't know why. I mean, Siddaramaiah's tweet, if you look at it, it's very dignified. It is nothing derogatory. It is not accusing. He's not pointing fingers. He's, as a former CM, he's just made a request saying, you know, our Hakki-Pikki tribal people are stuck there. You know, 31 people from the Hakki-Pikki tribe. We hear in the video, if you watch the video, they're saying we are stuck indoors from past few days, we are running out of food and water, there are unclaimed bodies on the road, and they're all scared, right? So it's just that a concern one politician has raised on Twitter saying, please ensure that they come back home safe.
Right, Lavanya.
And Jaishankar need not have affronted it. He could have just said, yes, we are doing our level best. I'm sure they are. We are doing our level best and we'll bring them back as soon as possible. That would have been a very dignified answer. I don't know why he got angry that somebody is making a request.
Right.
You know?
Krishna, my colleague, is also joining us on the broadcast right now. Krishna, the thing is, I'm sure there is backroom diplomacy which is going on. There must be parleys, you know, which must be going on. No one is questioning anyone's ability here. But don't you think that instead of assuring, what do you think? Because these Hakki-Pikki, they are, you know, tribal from Karnataka who sell herbal medicines. Apparently, they went to Sudan for a living. Now, the thing is that no one knows why they went there. Some they are saying herbal medicine, whatever. The point, my whole point is that, you know, it is also about reassuring someone, you know, I know that Siddaramaiah and context is very important, but do you think that Mr. Jaishankar kind of overreacted a little bit, maybe?
Maybe a little bit, but the thing is that, you know, it's all about the sensitivity of the situation. and also the fact that Karnataka is an election-bound state, and you're talking about people from the state of Karnataka as well. So clearly, Siddaramaiah was pouncing upon an opportunity that was available to him to pounce on the fact that these are tribals, Hakki-Pikki tribals, who are from indigenous to the state of Karnataka, who are now currently stuck in Sudan. And the fighting has been going on in Sudan for the last 3-4 days. And it's within their own armed forces. It's the paramilitary forces against the army. So it's a very complex situation that's going on over there. And in the sense that I think even the Indian government is getting very minimal updates from Sudan as well, because at the end of the day, they are at war with themselves. The Indian government is trying to do the best it can under such a complex a situation that Sudan is in, and the fact that these tribals, again, we're talking about people who from indigenous community, who are stuck over there. Considering the sensitivity of the situation, Siddaramaiah's tweet sort of led to that reaction from Dr. Jaishankar, which is, in a sense, you can call it, little overblown, little exaggerated, little overreacting, but considering the gravitas of the situation, considering the complexity of the situation, it's not. I would say it's not very easy to make that judgment.
I think Lavanya wants to respond there. Lavanya, please come in, and then I'll go to Anand.
Both the BJP spokesperson also said this point, that it is a very sensitive issue. Everybody knows about how sensitive this place is right now. And Sudan is not a very rich country or a very developed country for that matter. And for our people to go there to seek jobs, you can imagine how terrible their lives are back home in India, right? And that has forced them to seek greener pastures in these countries. And Sudan has never been a very peaceful country. If you look at Sudan's history, it's a war-torn nation. And when you're saying, oh, he shouldn't have made this demand or request, I don't think, the war in Sudan will escalate or de-escalate based on Karnataka's former CM or a minister within India talking about that situation.
No, but I think we are deviating. No, we are not talking about the war in Sudan. I mean, Lavanya, obviously, the war in Sudan has nothing to do with us. It's a civil war which is going on. We are only concentrating on Hakki. No, but this is out of context. I'm sorry, my apologies to you, but the thing is, we need to, what Siddaramaiah ji said, did Dr. Jaishankar overreact? My colleague feels it is fine, it's the election season. Let me go to Anand. I'll come back to you, Lavanya.
Anand's point was, Anand's point was that the situation might escalate. He made that point while talking. The situation might escalate if leaders keep talking about it in India. I don't think Indian leaders talking in India will affect the situation
I'm
in
sure
Sudan.
Krishna, my colleague, I'll take him later because he's someone who's watched world affairs very closely. And just because two politicians are having this Twitter spat does not mean a war is going to escalate there unless he, refutes me. Geopolitics doesn't work like that, and I hope to God. Anand, let me ask you, Anand. The thing is that, look, so far as sailors in Nigeria go, we know that, it's sub judice. The case is sub judice, Anand. Indian embassy, despite a letter from the Nigerian consulate, nothing has happened because there is a criminal charge there. The point is that what I feel is that all the sailors, all of us who are stuck there, I'm sure the Indian Embassy, Indian High Commission is doing their best to see that their release is, release happens sooner rather than later. But all one is saying is that because, Sudan, nothing much is known, it's war-torn, and we've had examples of Ukraine in the past. We've had examples of Basra in the past, both done by the BJP government. One only hoped that Dr. Jaishankar could give some assurance regarding Sudan.
See, it is very clear here. Okay, Sudan is not Ukraine. Ukraine at least has some formal governance there. Okay, so if you understand that, then you will not even ask this question, right, Sudan? Sudan doesn't have basic governance there, and despite that, Indian government, intelligence agencies and other people at the ground are trying to do the best they can. And even our opposition leaders have been briefed on this, but yet they come to Twitter and start asking questions, and then innocent spokespersons come and say, oh, nothing will happen. See, these are all things being done by Siddaramaiah, only keeping Karnataka elections in his mind, which is very sad. Okay, people will answer them in the elections, and that's why our foreign minister has given the right reaction. That,
right.
This is not the maturity levels
right.
From
you say that he gave the right reaction, but I just want to read out for the benefit of our viewers diplomacy is now no more really, stuck in big rooms. It's also digital diplomacy is a very important part of diplomacy now. In 2015, Sushma Swaraj, the late Sushma Swaraj, offers humanitarian aid to a Yemeni woman who was married to an Indian man. She just put up her picture. And there came a response. And she said there was her baby and the picture, and she said, we'll help you, don't worry. It's about safe evacuation. She could as well have said no. I mean, there were some kind of very absurd but very funny responses also from her. Someone saying, my fridge is Korean made, can you do something about it? You remember, Krishna, stuff
Yes.
like that, Also, someone lost a wallet in Germany. She intervened. So, Krishna, my whole question is that diplomacy now, you can't, you have to be geared up for the new avatar of diplomacy, which I think somewhere Jaishankar might have slipped. Because it cannot be that you're doing politics. He did not. It was a question. If so
fair enough. In this, when you view it from this particular spat, instance between Siddaramaiah and Dr. Jaishankar, it might feel that way. But the fact of the matter is that most of his fan base is built on the fact that his responses on Twitter, his social media presence, his ability to tell off Western journalists and Western diplomats and their overbearing views on India, that's what got him the adulation that he has today. So it's in the sense that I completely agree that digital diplomacy is an integral part of diplomacy these days. And as you said, former Foreign Minister of India, Sushma Swaraj, did set a shining example of how to do it and how to rescue individual Indians stuck in foreign shores, stuck in problematic foreign shores, war-torn foreign shores. Yes, so the ideal thing would have been that Dr. Jaishankar just went about doing what he does best and bring those people back, and then making that as the answer to all the questions being raised by Siddaramaiah. Because let's face it, the Indian government did do a fair enough job of rescuing so many Ukrainians as well, who were Indians.
But Anand said, Krishna, that Ukraine is not Sudan. So you watch foreign affairs very close.
It's a very important point he makes as well. Ukraine is not Sudan. But Ukraine is a far more developed country than Sudan.
Of course.
It is under war, under an attack from Russia right now. So in that sense, it has similarities with Sudan. But yes, in terms of established protocols of things that you can do, Ukraine is much better than when it compares to Sudan. Yes. But the fact of the matter is that I'm going to bring this back to the incident in question over here as to what is going on in Sudan. So that will sort of help us understand as to why the Indian government too is playing it in this wait and watch mode as to what's going on in Sudan, because the paramilitary force is up in arms against the army in Sudan. And it's a country which is yet to have a political government, a stable political government in ever, and where the army is in power. So if army is in power, you're only talking about a country that's under a coup, in which now there is a coup within a coup. So this is a really complex situation that Sudan is dealing with, and for any country dealing with Sudan is, So in that sense, for India to get clarity, step by step of what's going on over there, because all that we can hear from Sudan is that, wait for more updates, wait for more updates, wait for more updates. Intense fighting in the streets of Sudan, continuing in and day out. So I think that, Siddaramaiah sort of, I think the way I see this over here is that Siddaramaiah pounced on it at a very opportune moment. And it was a very sensitive subject. Dr. Jaishankar is good at all of this that you're talking about. But since he does not have clarity right now, he got caught on the wrong foot. And then his reaction was a little sharp.
Therefore, at this time where you don't get updates from Sudan, the one word, it's the E word that is required, empathy. And also, Lavanya, let me come to you. Considering that these tribals have no agency really, they are, bird catchers apparently, Hakki-Pikki, and they sell herbal medicines, and they also do other, what is called nomadic professions. So they really have no agency. And I'm not saying that, just because one is educated, one can really jump up and down and fly back to India, taking a chartered flight from Sudan. No, I'm not talking about that. But look at the situation. It becomes doubly complicated. Isn't that right, Lavanya Balal?
Absolutely. Hakki-Pikki tribe is a very small, endangered tribe of India, very small in number, and their lives are very difficult. It's not easy at all. I mean, of course, all tribal lives are very, delicate balance right now, especially the Hakki-Pikki tribe. So I'm amazed, I'm impressed that, they reached out to the embassy, they reached out to our foreign minister and his department through phone calls, and I think they have reached out to our chief minister, Mr. Bommai, as well, through video calls, explaining their situation. We hope they get evacuated very soon. like Krishna was saying, it's not a very stable country, and it has always been very volatile nation, Sudan. So 31 people from Karnataka, the Hakki-Pikki tribe, as well as I think 60 Indians are right now in Sudan. We hope they get rescued very soon.
Right. Anand, let me come to you. Sure, the Twitter war erupted. I mean, there is a war in Sudan, there is a war on Twitter. But the point of the matter is that, you say that he was right because he was almost like, why ask us this question and why get unnecessary publicity? But, why don't you, for the benefit of those who are really, really concerned, and also as a representative, spokesperson for the BJP, it's not just about Kannadigas that, Hakki-Pikki, they speak Kannada. I mean, they speak several other languages, but let's take them as Kannadigas right now. It's about other Indians also. What do you think is the government doing to bring them back as soon as possible?
See, all the people who have approached the embassy and our CM and the PM's office, everybody are given individual notifications. Like whenever any issue gets resolved or some information is received, they are getting not some public issues. We don't want to expose too many people. We want to give them individual information, and that has been given to their families. Despite this, sometimes, when press people and other people go and ask them, they will definitely be concerned. They may, they just ask them back, do you know something about our family? Things are happening. We completely respect that part of that. And but it was very unnecessary for a very tall stature leader who has an ex-CM to come more low profile, and understood the dynamics there, considering the fact that there is no governance there and it might harm the lives of those people. So anyway, he has done what he has done, and our FM has also replied the way it has to be. I mean, our EM has replied the way. But
right,
I feel
seems to be some problem. Yeah, I think there's some problem with Anand's network. Krishna. Krishna, forget about this. Let's for a minute forget about this Twitter war, okay? But you think that Sudan is super complicated now for NEA to, and also, anybody to kind of intervene and get those Hakki-Pikki, not just them, but other Indians back home, Krishna?
I think that is to me the crux of the situation.
Yes.
Over and above all the politics.
Yeah.
Is it right to raise a voice for those who don't have a voice? Yes, definitely. And you're talking about the Hakki-Pikki tribe, their tribals who are selling, herbal medicines, who went to sell herbal medicines. Imagine they went to Sudan. Excuse me. And you're rightly pointing out, so there's nothing wrong in raising a voice and asking for who's going to rescue these people, because, nobody we know is a Hakki-Pikki. So, it's important that, somebody who, and you're talking about the former chief minister, two-time chief minister of Karnataka, who was asking this question. But then again, there is politics involved over there because, at the end of the day, Karnataka, is up for elections. Fact of the matter is that you leave all this out. Who asked the question? How this was answered this way. The fact of the matter is that the situation in Sudan is very complicated, and the Indian government, I'm sure, is trying its level best to get the latest updates, hourly if it's possible. I'm not sure about that. About what is unfolding in Sudan, because the situation is yet to be brought under control. It's like, imagine if there was an earthquake. The earthquake is over and then you get aftershocks. When the situation comes under control is when you get a better understanding of what is going on, how many people are alive, how many people are dead, etc., etc. Where are they? How are they? So, since the situation is still unfolding in Sudan on a daily basis, it's just about 72 hours old, 96 hours old in Sudan. The Indian government, when they're able to get access to enough information, then they will, I'm sure, do the best they can to get all Indians, not just the Hakki-Pikki tribals, all of them safe from Sudan back to India. But in the meanwhile, it is difficult for them to appraise the Indian public of what exactly is going on, because there is only so much information available, I'm afraid, from Sudan's end in the first place, because bear in mind, that's not a regular government country that we're talking about over here, where there's a parliament, there's a president or a prime minister who runs the country.
Lavanya, let me come to you. We can go on and on about the diplomatic, boo-boos that subsequent governments have been accused of. We still are not over the 1962 India-China war. Why did it happen? Who kept the information? We still keep talking about Nehru and Menon and so on. Why is it that on diplomatic issues like this, and particularly when it's about lives, there has to be politics, Lavanya Balal. Why can't there be more empathy?
See, as politicians, irrespective of whichever party they belong to, it is a duty of every elected representative to speak up for the people. And also for the opposition leaders, it is a duty to demand answers from the ruling government when lives are at stake, and or, if not even demand, even to put out requests saying, we realize our people are in distress in such and such a place, could you give us an update, is a normal thing. Nobody need to get agitated about it. Everybody, end of the day, Dr. Jaishankar and Siddaramaiah ji both are functioning from the same space of wanting to protect fellow Indians, right? So I don't think there is a necessity for anyone to get agitated when the other person asks what's going on. Can we have an update, or could you please ensure that our people are back? I think somewhere
Lavanya Balal, let me say what Anand said. Instead of taking to Twitter, because it involves people and people from Karnataka, there could have been other channels of inquiring also, no? Why Twitter? Particularly when you're going to elections in a month's time, less than a month actually. There seems to be some mischief in this.
Absolutely. There are multiple channels in this of communications. I'm sure Siddaramaiah ji would have explored all the communication channels. And I think there is nothing wrong in a leader communicating his request to the opposition or to the foreign minister on Twitter or on social media or on media. I don't think it is incorrect. I think entire Indian politics is played out on social media.
Right.
So it's perfectly normal.
At the end of it, I hope the Hakki-Pikki people stuck in Sudan come back safe. I think that day we will really celebrate and forget about this Twitter spat between Siddaramaiah and Dr. Jaishankar. Thank you so much, Lavanya, and thank you also to Anand and of course to you, Krishna. Thank you indeed.
On March 20, 2023, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change warned member states they were not doing enough to limit global warming. Phase out coal by 2040, appealed United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
No new coal, and the phasing out of coal by 2030 in OECD countries and 2040 in all other countries.
Fossil fuels like coal, gas and oil emit carbon dioxide. This stays in the atmosphere longer than other greenhouse gases like methane. The world used more than 8,000 million tons of coal in the year 2022. Its emission traps heat in the Earth's atmosphere and raises temperatures.
India has been consistently advocating that we move away completely from fossil fuels, not just identifying coal as one of the villains in this case. And this stand was, so to say, raised by India at the COP. But then the developed economies did not sign. Now, the good thing is that the UN also has, so to say, vindicated its India's stand by saying that this is the right approach to go.
India's installed power generation capacity is more than 4 lakh megawatt. This includes fossil and non-fossil fuels. Of this, almost half is coal. The remaining sources of energy include hydropower, lignite, gas, diesel, wind, solar, and nuclear.
We consumed about 697 million tons in the power sector. I'm not talking about coal for all the other sectors, which was over 1,000 million tons last year. Up to 2030 will be, the power sector will consume about 990 million tons or so.
India should actually, not only sustain its coal production, but grow it. And I'm happy to tell you that India is exactly doing that. It is growing its production and it has set some ambitious targets. And what is interesting is that now there's a plan to actually export coal by 2026. So that's extremely on track when it comes to looking at the coal policy in this country.
India's energy demand is going to quadruple over the next 20 years. And it cannot rely on a variable source of generation like REs.
You have sun, which shines only for a few hours in the day. Similarly, wind blows only at certain times of the year and certain time of the day. We do have some amount of hydro, but it cannot take. Hydro also has its limitations in terms of environmental issues. So we have to depend on coal.
West has made a lot of strong economic growth by using cheaper fossil fuels then. But now I think this whole demand of just phasing out coal and not phasing out of all fossil fuels has been very unjust and unfair to the developing countries who are relying more on coal.
They are not dependent on natural gas. And there is assumption that natural gas pollutes lesser than coal. When you mine natural gas, it's still a fossil fuel. It still emits carbon dioxide. And I said extraction of fossil fuel emits a lot of methane into the atmosphere, which is a very potent greenhouse gas.
If you are 75 and a BJP leader, chances are you'll join the veterans at the Marg Darshak Mandal, a retirement home. But when it comes to B.S. Yediyurappa, the BJP pulled him out of retirement to lead the party in the 2023 Karnataka Assembly elections.
Age has nothing to do with Yediyurappa ji.
The first chief minister to go to prison, no?
Whether you like him or hate him, you can't ignore him.
As election frenzy grips Karnataka, the four-time chief minister is someone the BJP can't do without if it wants to retain power. The man whose hand Prime Minister Narendra Modi is holding is B.S. Yediyurappa.
येदियुरप्पा जी ने अभी पिछले हफ्ते कर्नाटका असेंबली में जो भाषण दिया, वो सार्वजनिक जीवन जीने वाले प्रत्येक व्यक्ति के लिए प्रेरणा है। हमारी आने वाली पीढ़ियों के लिए भी येदियुरप्पा जी का ये भाषण, उनका जीवन हमेशा हमेशा प्रेरणा देने वाला है।
It sent a strong message that central leaders are still with Yediyurappa. Congress was shedding tears that Yediyurappa is written off, So the BJP Delhi leaders didn't want to give that impression. So they went to Shivamogga. They held his hand to show that we are with Lingayats.
Yediyurappa ji is known for hard work. Yediyurappa ji is known for commitment. Yediyurappa ji is man of words. This is how people of Karnataka recognize Yediyurappa ji. His simplicity and his humbleness. Whether he is in power or not in power, it doesn't matter to Yediyurappa ji.
People say Yediyurappa is a liability to the BJP. At the same time, BJP is not really in a position to continue its politics without Yediyurappa. See, Yediyurappa, whether you like him or hate him, you can't ignore him because his roots are very strong in the community.
He never dreamt that he will become an MLA or a minister. He never dreamt all this. But he always fought for people's cause. He always fought for farmers' issue. He always stood with poor people, and that's been his strength also. BJP was earlier known as an urban-based party in Karnataka. It's because of Yediyurappa ji's efforts, party is able to reach in every village in the state of Karnataka.
1983 was a watershed in Karnataka politics. The first time the Congress continuous rule from 1956 to 83 was broken. That time, many people got elected from other than Congress, and one of them was Yediyurappa. And he never looked back thereafter.
Hello, you're watching News9 Live. This was one sensational murder in the political history of Andhra Pradesh. The CBI arrested Y.S. Bhaskara Reddy, who's the uncle of Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Y.S. Jagan Mohan Reddy. Bhaskara Reddy was arrested in the murder of former MP Vivekananda Reddy, who was the younger brother of Rajasekhara Reddy. A case has been registered under sections related to conspiracy as well as murder. Like I said, Vivekananda was the youngest brother of Rajasekhara Reddy, and he was found dead at his residence on the night of 15th of March 2019. The murder was reported weeks before the state assembly elections. My colleague Kabir Naqvi joins me in the studio. Kabir, this murder has taken twists and turns. First was Jagan saying TDP is involved in this, and then SIT is not doing a great job. Then it was transferred to the CBI. The thing is, first it was said it was a heart attack, then they found multiple stab wounds on Vivekananda Reddy. What is the latest that we are hearing on this, Kabir Naqvi?
Well, absolutely. Lots of twists and turns ever since 2019. Then the case was, after the state SIT was probing the case, initially it was later handed over to the CBI in the July of 2020. And that's when actually revelations came about. Now, particularly talking about the charges, he's been charged under section 120B, which is conspiracy, 302, which is murder, and 201, which is tampering with evidence. The latest in this case is that on the 16th of April, Bhaskara Reddy was arrested, and now it seems the CBI has gotten 6-day custody of Bhaskara Reddy. His son, Avinash Reddy, who's also a sitting MP at the moment, has come out and, speaking to various regional media outlets, has said that we are going to go to any extent to prove our innocence, especially my father's. He's saying that the case is based on, false victimhood by various parties, and also in terms of politics, any kind of such incident that takes place ahead of assembly elections, there is speculation is rife that there is some foul play that is involved in this as well. The lawyers of Bhaskara Reddy have said that Bhaskara Reddy is not, doing so well when it comes to his health. There are a lot of BP and blood pressure issues. So the court has asked the CBI to make sure that all kinds of questioning happens in the line of sight of the lawyers as well. But the most twisting revelation that came after the CBI took over was that it was Bhaskara Reddy and Avinash Reddy that carried out or conspired this particular
All
murder.
those are allegations.
All those are allegations.
All those are in the realm of allegations and speculation.
Absolutely. I mean, this is Avinash Reddy.
And the thing is that Sunita, the daughter of deceased Vivekananda Reddy, met with her cousin Jagan Mohan after he became Chief Minister and said, it's been years. Nothing has been moving. Now, Avinash has also kind of, accused Sunita of, interfering in the case. So, like you rightly said, lots of twists and turns in this. But, Kabir, what is most intriguing for me is that how come you report a murder saying it's a heart attack when later multiple stab wounds are found, and apparently all the evidence was wiped out from the floor?
Yeah, that particular seat, the Kadapa Lok Sabha poll seat, that seems to be the bone of contention here. Avinash Reddy was supposed to be fighting from that, contesting from that seat. There were lots of skirmishes. This should happen, this shouldn't happen, like it happens in family politics. I mean, the Reddys are a big name in Andhra Pradesh. That did not happen. On the day of the murder, it is being alleged that he was out there campaigning for Avinash Reddy. The same person, it was being alleged that Vivekananda Reddy does not want to be contesting from the Kadapa Lok Sabha seat. So that's again there. And then the Sakhi, the mouthpiece of the YSRCP, that came out with this cartoon. Sakshi, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
Sakshi Sakhi, I beg your pardon over there.
That's right.
It came out with that cartoon and then later said heart attack. So again, that narrative of foul play, that perception in the public. And the public, I mean, after YSR's, that mishap that happened in that helicopter crash, so much
of depression that took over the people of Andhra Pradesh as well. They're really connected with their politicians, aren't they?
Yeah, but like we said, very intriguing murder, and I think it is going to cost the YSRCP majorly, because Andhra Pradesh go to elections in June of 2024. So imagine, there are murmurs there, and I'm not talking about opposition parties, that let's say common man in Andhra Pradesh, what is he saying? You are unable to solve the murder within your own family. What will you do with a common man, who faces crime, Kabir?
Well, absolutely. So cracks within the Reddys, that is something that has come out now. And given the assembly elections that are due next year, also the Lok Sabha polls, let's not forget, it's going to be interesting to see how Jagan Mohan Reddy is going to be able to tackle this situation, given that, apart from all the other South leaders, be it Pinarayi Vijayan, K. Chandrasekhar Rao, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, he's not necessarily seen going against the BJP or the centre. He likes to keep his ties really nice with the Bharatiya Janata Party at the centre. So it's going to be interesting to see how he tackles this, because let's not forget, TDP and Chandrababu Naidu are also in the mix. BJP is going to be looking to attract the best party possible for its own political dividends.
Yeah, and I think we shall await what happens to Avinash Reddy. In the meanwhile, thank you, Kabir, for bringing us up to speed on the sensational Vivekananda Reddy murder case.
I think the reality is that there was a huge hiring spree that happened globally.
You might reduce your electricity consumption, which will save you 1 or 2% or 0.1%. You might reduce a little office space, which will save you maybe 1 or 2%. But you reduce your staff, you save 10% overnight.
Economic reality did not force Google to lay off 12,000 of our coworkers.
Companies are trying to attract them with higher and higher salaries, and sometimes these things are also hyped.
There was a surge and a frenzied hiring that happened, particularly starting from, let's say, end 2021.
They should have seen the writing on the wall many months back and conserved cash. So what should have been done maybe 1 or 2 quarters ago, they're doing right now.
Every morning you wake up, you read the headlines, they're shouting at you, 9,000 fired, 18,000 laid off, 50,000 gone. These are not the kind of numbers that one is used to seeing in papers every day.
You are fired.
When we entered 2023, we were looking at trouble at Twitter. Elon Musk had just taken over, and more than half of the global workforce had been wiped out almost instantly. Little did we know at that time that the trouble at Twitter was a very different chapter, and there was a trouble of a different kind brewing in the big tech industry in the US. And that sort of led to what I refer to as the layoff pandemic. It wasn't restricted to one company. It wasn't restricted to a few employees. It happened in thousands. And when you talk about big tech, this is an industry that drives Silicon Valley, that drives a major chunk of the global economy. And you had the likes of Meta, which was earlier called Facebook. You had the likes of Amazon, Microsoft, Google's parent Alphabet, everybody literally laying off employees in thousands. It continued to make headlines every day. There was a ticker that we were maintaining in our newsrooms, and there were more zeros added to it every day as we progressed.
I think the reality is that there was a huge hiring spree that happened globally. So I think right now everybody's realizing that they need to do more with less. I think global tech companies, they are looking at the macro environment in terms of how tech is doing, and just doing, in some cases, pruning is not a bad thing.
As far the Western companies, particularly in America, are concerned, this is a correction. If you look at the hiring they had over the last 2 years, it is enormous. They hired much more than they needed. The cost base went up. Now they're finding the revenues not growing at the same pace because many of them are getting saturated.
Well, that's part of the reason, because you focus so much just on the top line and it's growing. When that top line stops growing, then everybody starts worrying and people begin pulling out money. Or money is not, infusion is not as much as you thought. You're not even pulling out money. No investors may not pull out their money, but new investment that you expect is not coming. You suddenly realize, hey, I can't survive like this. And then you find that you've got to cut costs. And how do you cut costs? These are people companies. No? That's one of the things of this whole sector.
But even after layoff, the employee count in the tech industry is still at the same level at where it was before the pandemic started. So I don't see that as an area of big concern. The only thing that is concerning is that because the industry is maturing, we will not expect the same kind of growth we saw, say, last 3 years or last 5 years.
I don't think any of us could have foreseen what happened, that COVID coming and hitting us as badly. Ukraine, the war at Ukraine, I don't think that was something that you can factor in, right? The recent Silicon Valley Bank. So it isn't that companies don't, plan in these unforeseen, but the magnitude of these unforeseen is what is something that I don't think anyone could. If they could, I think every company would, why would somebody want to hire and then fire?
एक ही जो भ्रम फैलाते थे कि मुसलमान भाजपा से नाराज है, मुसलमानों को भाजपा पर विश्वास नहीं है। विपक्ष के इस भ्रम को, इस मिथक को इस उपचुनाव ने तोड़ दिया।
आज भी माहौल ये चल रहा है कि जो है ऊपर दस्तरखान इनका नहीं लगेगा, ये जो है चारपाई पे नहीं बैठ सकते पसमानदा कौम के लोग।
Cabinet Minister and the then BJP UP President Swatantra Dev Singh was presenting a report on the party's performance in the recently concluded bypolls in Azamgarh and Rampur. The BJP had scripted a stunning reversal during the presentation.
21वीं सदी का नया भारत, आत्मनिर्भर भारत और मेक इंडिया के सपनों को लेकर आगे बढ़ा।
PM Narendra Modi made a brief interjection and said that the need of the hour was to focus on Pasmanda Muslims and their upliftment. The PM also asked his party leaders to take out Snehi Yatras to bridge differences between the party and Pasmanda Muslims. What was meant to be a show of strength for the BJP's southern surge turned out to be a much bigger political message of Pasmanda outreach, which might well be Modi's trump card in the 2024 general election.
Pasmanda is a Persian word that means the ones left behind. What makes them so valuable to the BJP is their sheer number. Though the Sachar committee in its report puts the population of OBC and SC/ST Muslims at 40%, Pasmanda activists and scholars say that they constitute 80 to 85% of the total Muslim base in India, which tallies with the 1871 census that said that only 17% of Muslims were upper caste while 81% were from lower caste. And this arithmetic makes them an important voter pool.
Danish Ansari is the symbol of Pasmanda outreach in UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath's cabinet. Hailing from Balia, Ansari has held various positions in the Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad and was state president of the BJP's minority cell before he was made the Minister for Minorities. Ansari believes that BJP's victory in 2 bypolls in UP, Rampur and Azamgarh in June 2022 is a clear indicator of a shift in the Muslim community's voting preference.
देखिए, एक ही जो भ्रम फैलाते थे कि मुसलमान भाजपा से नाराज है, मुसलमानों को भाजपा पर विश्वास नहीं है, इस भ्रम, विपक्ष के इस भ्रम को, इस मिथक को इस उपचुनाव ने तोड़ दिया है। रामपुर में जहां 50% से ज्यादा मुस्लिम आबादी है और आजमगढ़ में जहां अल्पसंख्यक बाहुल्य वो लोकसभा कही जाती है, उन दोनों जगह उन लोकसभा के उपचुनाव में भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने ऐतिहासिक जीत करके ये साबित कर दिया कि आज समाज का हर वर्ग, चाहे किसी जाति धर्म मजहब का हो, वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी के साथ है। मोदी जी के नीतियों पर विश्वास करते हुए वो भाजपा के ऊपर विश्वास कर रहा है और दोनों उपचुनाव में ये जीत अगर मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी साथ नहीं होती तो हमें नहीं मिल पाती। और दोनों जगह की जीत ये स्पष्ट संदेश देती है कि हम मुसलमान अब विकास की तरफ हैं, जो हमें विकास देगा हम उसकी तरफ हैं। और भारतीय जनता पार्टी, नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने हमारे विकास के जो नए नए रास्ते खोले हैं, हम मुसलमानों को उन पर पूरा भरोसा है और हम अब उनके साथ कंधे से कंधा मिला के आगे बढ़ेंगे।
Thanks for tuning in to News 9 Live. English is not mandatory. Yes, you're reading that particular background. Absolutely right. And it is some good news as well for students, especially from the non-English medium backgrounds. The UGC has allowed students to write exams in local languages, even if the course is offered in English medium. Now, to understand the context and the reasons, let's go across to my colleague Pankaj Mishra joining us here in the studio. Pankaj, good news, bad news, or is it a mixed review? Help soothe the anxieties of all the students out there.
Well, I would say it's good news in a way because, Kabir, it doesn't just end at your writing desk, at your examination hall where you are writing your paper, but it also paves a way, Kabir, basically for the subsequent books that would be coming out for higher studies also, and to inculcate that practice. There are, what UGC has done as of now is to increase the teaching and learning process, the cycle of it in mother tongue, in the local language, in the language that you and I speak at home. That way, even if you are supposed the answers instruction or the answers language is in English, the UGC has given this leeway to the students that they can answer in their own mother tongue, because that way it will gradually go down to the basic level where the government or the UGC as of now wants that the books should start coming in that language. Remember, Kabir, not long ago when medical books were introduced in Hindi.
Right.
So, well, the jury is still out whether the terminologies were translated in Hindi or not. They were still in English, but they were still written in Hindi. That was a step towards what making local language, colloquial language, mother tongue, more acceptable in higher studies as well.
Well, absolutely. It seems like the Commission has stressed that it is necessary to strengthen these efforts and promote such initiatives as writing writing the textbooks in the mother tongue and local languages should be encouraged, and hence the teaching and the career growth of the student as well. So, according to Pankaj, it is good news out there. What do you think about it? You can comment down below in the comment section as well. We are going to continue to keep our ears on the ground when it comes to news coming for and from the students community. Many thanks for watching this quick episode. Lots more coming right on the other side. Keep watching News 9 Live.
Tamil Nadu, the citadel of Dravidian politics for nearly 6 decades. It is home to over 6 crore Tamil speakers. It has not been ruled by a national party in over 5 decades. The state has aggressively kept national parties at bay. The stronghold of charismatic regional leaders like the DMK's C.N. Annadurai or Anna, M.G. Ramachandran, M. Karunanidhi and J. Jayalalalitha. But the BJP has now identified Tamil Nadu as its final frontier. And Kuppuswamy Annamalai is the man for the job.
2024 election, it is going to determine two things. One, 3 years of DMK rule, people are going to measure by their words. 10 years of our rule, they are going to measure.
He has emerged as a leader. His acceptance will come during the Lok Sabha election. If he wins a few seats in the Lok Sabha, I think Annamalai, the leader, would have arrived.
Today, for the youth of Tamil Nadu, they're able to relate themselves, they're able to identify themselves, they're able to connect very well with the current leader of BJP, Sri Annamalai.
மீனவ சமுதாய இளைஞர்களுக்கு அண்ணாமலை அவர்கள் ஒரு மிகுந்த உற்சாகத்தையும் முன்மாதிரியாகவும் செயல்பட்டு கொண்டிருக்கிறாரு.
Tamil Nadu has been ruled by charismatic, larger-than-life heroes for over 50 years. The cult culture has deified movie stars such as MGR, Jayalalitha, and artist-writers such as M. Karunanidhi. But K. Annamalai is a working-class hero.
He communicates very directly, he uses simple language, and then he breaks down even complicated stuff into layman's language.
An educated, articulate millennial, an always-on-the-move go-getter, he's the opponent no Dravidian politician asked for. To watch him in action means witnessing large-scale protests, impromptu press conferences, and mega rallies across Tamil Nadu.
He's young, he's active, dynamic, and he is throwing down the gauntlet. He's taking on the DMK almost every other day.
But who is K. Annamalai? And what makes him the new hero of Tamil Nadu politics? 38-year-old K. Annamalai is the Tamil Nadu state president of the Bharatiya Janata Party. He was appointed to the top post in July 2021. An engineer come IIM Lucknow graduate, Annamalai joined the Indian Police Service in 2011. As a young officer, he started cracking the whip without hesitation. He made headlines for his role in tackling the 2017 riots in Karnataka's Chikmagalur. So popular was Annamalai in the district that his transfer led to protests. By then, he was already being called the real-life Singham.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Plus. A large number of Blinkit customers are struggling as stores continue to show unavailability in many parts of the country. As many as 2,500 Blinkit delivery executives are on strike in Delhi NCR. Reason? The recent changes made in the delivery incentive structure, wherein the company slashed fixed payouts per delivery. Now, under the new structure, workers will receive 15 rupees for each delivery within 1 kilometer radius. Earlier, they were getting about 25 rupees. Now, further, for traveling beyond 1 kilometer, workers would get anywhere between 10 to 14 rupees per kilometer on the additional distance. The strike has resulted in some Blinkit stores closing down permanently. Zomato, the parent company of Blinkit, says that the operations are back to normal in certain parts of the stores in Delhi NCR, but the recent strikes have left us with more questions than answers. How sustainable is quick delivery service model? More importantly, who will protect the rights of delivery executives and other blue-collar workers once the startup operations pick pace and there is a need to cut cost? We will be discussing that and a lot more. With me in the studio, my colleague Karthik and Krishna. Karthik, coming to you first. One question that perhaps comes to everybody's minds is that 10 rupee looks like a very small amount from our perspective as people who are ordering out. But for a delivery person, it could mean a whole lot of difference.
Of course it does. I mean, 10 rupees cut out on a small base of 25 rupees, you're actually talking about, what, close to about 60%? So 60% of the fee that one used to draw earlier is something that they're going to draw today. Now, we've got to see this in the larger context of the fact that India is actually the second largest employer of gig workers anywhere in the world, right? There's something like 77 lakh gig workers operating in India. And what are the prime employers for these gig workers? You're talking about companies like Swiggy, Zomato, Ola. These top the ranks when it comes to the gig economy. Now, there are two ways to look at it, Shweta. Number one, is there an incentive in cutting down the payout per delivery, which can be passed on to the consumer? If that happens to be the case, there is a higher chance of more customers latching on to a quick delivery platform and ordering more, which means the gig economy workers, the riders who were delivering, let's say, 100 orders in a day, could very well start delivering 40% more orders if there are more takers in their locality. Right. Secondly, the differentiator in Blinkit versus, let's say, the other e-commerce platforms and their delivery partners is the fact that there are regions assigned to each delivery partner. So a delivery partner servicing, let's say, Sector 125 Noida, where we are operating right now, there will be X number of delivery partners who are only expected to service this sector, only pick up groceries or whatever items you're buying from a particular district center or a store assigned for delivery into this sector. Now, as we speak, in fact, I was looking just before I came into the studio if I could order a cup of coffee, in fact, coffee beans to make my coffee in office, but the error message pops up. So, Blinkit right now is not delivering in Sector 125 Noida.
Unavailable.
Right. But the point being, yes, it is obviously a major hit to the gig economy workers. And that is a pain that you can't take away, especially because you know that these are the guys who are actually bread earners for their families. And these are the people who don't make enough money to be able to build any savings and keep anything for the rainy day. And talking about rainy days specifically, what happens? You order something on a rainy day, you can't deliver it in 9 minutes, obviously there's a loss. Right.
Absolutely.
So people like us may not think twice when the weather is bad outside, when it is scorching heat, or when it is really cold, or when it is raining. But our expectation is that the partner, whether getting 25 rupees or 15 rupees from our total bill, should still come and deliver. So what was the rush for any platform to really get into this super quick commerce is another question that
what's your take on super quick commerce, Krishna? 11-minute delivery, 9-minute delivery. Everybody's competing with one another as to how quickly you can deliver. Instant gratification is the need of the hour. We as people perhaps don't think much into it, but there is a lot that goes behind it.
Oh, absolutely. For starters, now Blinkit, because of about 2,500 odd workers going on strike, these dark stores where they hoard these items for immediate delivery, about 375 of them have been shut down. And that's the reason why you're seeing what is happening. And just to be devil's advocate for a second, Zomato has said that there will be little to very nothing kind of revenue hit for the company as a whole because of all the disruptions over the last 4 to 5 days. They're saying about a 1% revenue hit for Blinkit as a platform and 0.15% revenue hit for Zomato put together, which acquired Blinkit for around 4,400 crore rupees. So that's the situation as far as the company is concerned. Yes, the human issue here is that the amount of effort that goes in, it does not get compensated. And why? If I were to quote somebody controversial like Ashnir Grover of BharatPay, he says that the plain simple math of it all is that the unit economics for quick commerce doesn't really work. And that's the fact of the matter. Nobody is able to prove that you can do quick commerce and make it a profitable business, leave alone Blinkit. And the only way to make quick commerce profitable is by slashing delivery costs. And what is a delivery cost? Is the money that you pay to your delivery partner. And that's what Blinkit has done. And that's how their quarterly results will be perfectly fine. But the situation continues to be problematic for customers like you and me, Shweta, and of course the workers, the gig economy that Karthik Malhotra was talking about, the gig workers, who are also one of us. They're also trying to make a living, trying to do this for us. So that's where the stalemate is, Shweta.
Absolutely. So it's not just about a human issue; it's also a labor force issue. Trina Das, who's the founder of Gig Chain, is with us at this point in time. Trina, thanks very much for joining us. I want to begin by asking, what is the state of blue-collar workers? Are you in talks with some of these delivery partners? What are they saying? What are their concerns like?
Sure. So we have been into delivery business for a long time. Recently, we are not doing deliveries, but we have a pretty good experience of working with delivery partners. And what we realized through our experience is that it's very inhuman for what the delivery guys are actually having to go through, and how they are managing their daily costs from the kind of earnings that they are getting to make from the normal delivery costs. But when you are slashing it down by, like, such a huge difference, it creates a big impact in the lives of blue collar workers, and we definitely feel for them. I mean, I do understand the need of a company to become profitable, or to meet their, marketing targets and their matrices, but it's also important for us to understand that if the customer is not willing to pay for the delivery costs, we shouldn't be force fitting that delivery with minimal cost, putting it all on the blue collar worker. This is pretty inhuman, and we totally don't support. I think we founders need to be truly responsible, and I hope companies like Zomato, Blinkit, and others do realize the same, and not scale at the cost of the workers.
Okay, where is the remedy in law as far as labor laws in India is concerned? What can gig workers do? We know that they are on a strike for a while now, since 13th of April. They continue to protest, they continue to get together, but what is the ultimate resort as far as law is concerned?
Unfortunately, the gig workers, there is no strong law for gig workers who are actually working as business partners and not on their payroll. So the protection for them and being fair to them, it's not really defined by the law right now, because of which the startups are able to do whatever they are, whatever is making sense for them, without understanding the last mile challenges for the workers.
Okay.
And it's very difficult to understand. Yeah, but there is nothing in the law as at this point. I mean, which is something that government should look at.
Okay, let's talk about the entire model of quick commerce at this point in time, Karthik, and that is that in a country like India, where 150,000 people die of road accidents, you have these people on roads delivering within the time frame. If not, they're punished for it. How sustainable do you think the entire model is?
Okay, so you've got to actually take a couple of steps back and see this through. Why are they doing this? They're doing this because there is no better opportunity cost. So if you look at pure economics, the theory of opportunity cost in economics, they are taking this up because this is the best option available.
Okay.
In the absence of any other employment stream available to them, given their limited skill sets, given their limited education, this is the best option for them to take up, and they take it up. Now, are companies really exploiting it? I think that's a very harsh word. Companies are, while they're cutting down on costs, we've also got to look at the fact that these companies have given employment to a huge mass of the population which was unskilled, lesser educated, to take on a better employment gig, right? So they are into this business and they are into this service because this service pays them and pays for them and their families. Now, of course, an average earning of, let's say, 18,000 a month, right, median being 18,700 or something, reduced to, let's say, 1,200 rupees a day, now comes down from 1,200 a day to 800 rupees a day. But do they have an option better than 800 rupees a day to switch over to? If they do, they will. And that is where the whole sort of equilibrium will set in, where the dynamics of a free labor economy start to kick in.
Right.
The fact of the matter is they don't. If they want to, let's say, switch over from a quick commerce delivery to, let's say, become an Ola driver, their inherent costs also go up. They need to be licensed drivers. They need to figure out a way to afford EMI, which they're paying for a bike right now, pay EMI for a car. They need to cater to the maintenance of that car. Inflation is hitting bikes and cars and fuel prices in general, but a motorcycle gives much better mileage than a car. So, overall, what I'm really trying to arrive at is that this is the best option available to gig workers. Can they unionize? They can't unionize. They are not on the payrolls, right? And that's the message that the lady was just trying to drive home as well. They are contractual laborers who have signed an agreement and are there. and that's the best deal they've got. So if a company decides to cut back on costs, I doubt there's anything much that can be done about it.
Absolutely. And this goes beyond quick commerce. We were discussing this morning that this actually is a systemic problem with every company. They first fixate on the top line. They have enough incoming customers who come in, their pockets are full. Now they start looking at the bottom line and making profit.
Yeah.
And which is the only place, or where's the only place that they can actually get money from, is the people working for them. So delivery people, drivers. In case of Ola, for that matter, Krishna, I would like you to come in here. I think it's a history repeating for itself here in India with every other app, be it a taxi hailing app, be it quick commerce. It happens on a yearly basis. You have Zomato workers going on strike, you have Swiggy workers going on strike, and now with Blinkit.
Well, absolutely, a fair point you make, and it's not just India. Again, it's across the world. You've seen, Ola and Uber workers going on strike, across European nations. So many countries where they're facing so many issues. From taxi hailing, as you rightly pointed out, to quick commerce. There seems to be what many people from my travels of meeting startup founders across the country is that a cultural understanding of what it means to deal with a labor force while setting up a global MNC company that these people want to do.
Yeah, and they are. Zomato is delivering across 4-5 countries last I checked.
Yeah, and so in that sense, the understanding of a people from a socio-economic strata. It's not just about Indian delivery workers. We're talking about taxi riders in Spain, protesting. You have umpteen examples happening, and that's happening because of the ongoing socio-economic divide that you're witnessing. We've gone from a 80-20 world to a 90-10 world, and then startup founders, I think, after a point, while understanding everything from the importance of unit economics to business to other things, understanding people culturally, what it means for livelihoods, for them to, for what these livelihoods mean to them, and to be able to be accommodative of that. Let's face it, you had Maruti, Suzuki, having issues with its own employees, in Manasar, and that also, again, they say that because the Japanese part of the management, were not culturally, able to attune to what was going on with the workers over there. And I think it's a similar problem between startup founders who come from, say, Ivy League schools and, set up socio-economic setup, dealing with people who they've never dealt with growing up. And, and therein lies a culture clash that is socio-economic.
And there's one more thing I'd like to add to that, Shweta, before you ask the next question. Fundamentally, when you look at it globally, the Uber drivers are not actually just Uber drivers. These are guys who are doing a regular day job and in their spare time trying to make extra money by being on the Uber partner app and picking and dropping customers. So the concept of gig economy is actually very different. It is an additional gig that you pick up in addition to your existing regular job. The problem in India, given the large population, given the overall skill challenge and education challenge, which a lot of youth today are facing and inundated with literally, is the fact that a gig job actually becomes their sole job. Because the more number of hours you give, they don't work 8 hours, right? They are working 12 hours, 14 hours. Some Uber drivers, taxi hailing drivers that I have met have worked for as long as 24 hours as well, right? So the point is, this is their only source of employment. And when this source of employment gets hit even by a 40%, it's a huge number. Unit economics say it's only a 10 rupee, right? But extrapolate that over the 14, 15, 16 hours. No, the number of hours and the number of deliveries they are doing in those number of hours, and then extrapolate that to a larger population, it's a huge number we are talking about. So obviously cost saving for the quick delivery apps and the ecosystem per se. But the point is, doing this, will it bring in profitability? Because profitability doesn't come to Indian startups. And the larger point here being because you're always going to target increasing your customer base. And how do you increase your customer base? You will keep increasing your customer base by undercutting your profitability. So Ola went and bought Taxi for Sure back in 2015, 2016, I guess. Grofers, which Blinkit is today, started as Grofers, right? 2015, it introduced the disruption of same-day delivery. Deliveries would take 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, depending on where they're coming from.
Next day.
No, the same day. Their advantage really, the disruption that Grofers did was same-day delivery.
Same-day delivery.
Right, you ordered something online on a Flipkart or
so
Amazon.
going beyond big baskets.
4 or 5 days later.
And we're talking about Grofers, incidentally, they also came up with the original quick commerce concept of picking it up from a nearby store
Exactly.
and delivering it to you.
Exactly.
They don't have the warehouse. They're just picking it up from a nearby store and delivering it to you. They have delivery partners in a micro locality.
So these disruptions will have to be made. Otherwise, how else do you compete? A Blinkit today competes with a Dunzo, competes with Zepto, competes with a Big Basket, competes. I mean, you've got to survive. And to survive, you've got to disrupt. And you disrupt by introducing these quirky 9-minute deliveries, 12-minute deliveries. And then, yeah, I mean, you're obviously trying to expand your customer base. You want to service those many more people. Your top line increases. But then every delivery is obviously a cost.
It has a cost and human cost at this point in time, as we can see. Trina continues to be with us. Trina, help me understand, you have trained over 5,000 gig workers. We were talking about the gig economy and how it's become a mainstream job as opposed to having a side job that you can pursue in the later part of the day after you're done with your full-time job. How's the gig economy panning out at this point? Is there a sense of, the sense of excitement continues, or are people being more cautious about it now?
Yeah, so I think the trend is coming, the gig working side is growing, of course. 90 million workers are doing gig work right now, which is kind of like the full-time earning source for so many people. But what we do have to realize is that when a person is coming on the gig working side, they need premium payment to compensate for the full-time recruitment or employment that they earlier had. It cannot work with a discounted model, of course, and companies needs to pay premium for the services that we are providing, because we are saving the costs of employment compliances and so many other things. The idea of cutting costs and making it equal to the salaries of gig worker is never going to work out, and that is what is very irresponsible for founders and companies who are taking the decision to not care about the cost that is coming on these workers, which is very unfortunate, and our heart breaks to imagine that we are not able to do something for these gig workers, because we truly feel for them and trying to make a model that works. And
Trina, have you spoken to a Blinkit worker of recently, maybe in a day or two? What's the sense that you're getting from them? Are they going to go back to work, call off the strike? Is there a promise made by the management at Zomato? What's happening really on ground?
So one thing is that they are dependent on the on the gig work, obviously, because that is their full-time work that they are doing right now. I think there's a lot of frustration. They feel helpless. They feel not cared for, and which is really not a good situation to be in. I mean, we are just talking about the cost-cutting part, but the kind of mental trauma that the gig workers are having to go through is unimaginable. I have got the chance to speak to one of the Blinkit workers who we have placed earlier, when we were into gig work, and it was not a very good discussion. I mean, we felt really bad and tried to help him get something else. We are actually trying to put him into something else. So that's what I felt, yeah.
Okay, so even as Zomato continues to say that it's not going to affect our operations, in fact, less than 1% of our revenue will be impacted, and we are now back on track. Most of our stores is open. We don't know whether the strike is going to be called off. In fact, when looking at the quick commerce numbers, and I have some numbers here for the benefit of our viewers, it was at $300 million as of last year. In the next year or so, it will swell 10 to 15 times to $5 billion by 2025. Those are big numbers, Karthik, Krishna. It basically essentially goes on to say that despite whatever is happening at the ground reality does not really impact people who are seeking gig work. That continues to be a hot cake, and everybody is going after it because nobody, dislikes extra penny, extra money that they can make at the end of the day.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's customers like us that these companies have expanded their customer base into and acquired us. Can you imagine your life without quick commerce today? I can't for the life of me.
I've been trying to order for the last 3 days. Every evening I go back home and Blinkit says it's unavailable.
Yeah, but Blinkit is one case in point right now because there's a strike and because some of the stores were shut down and because in general, the workers are not available. But the fact of the matter is, you Swiggy your dinner. you Swiggy Instamart your groceries, you milk basket your next day's requirements. You're living off these apps. The urban Indian is living off the apps. I don't remember the last time, honestly, I went out and bought fruit, or last I went out and bought milk from a mother dairy or from any other physical retail outlet. I don't do it. I mean, the more amount of time we are able to save going to a shop and physically buying something is time we can use in more productive or entertaining avenues, as the case may be. So the point is, why the numbers that you just cited, right? 300 million swelling up to 5 billion. It's a huge 12x, 13x sort of a growth. But the fact of the matter is, you have those many players right now who are all fighting for the same Shweta, Krishna, Karthik, and there are half a dozen apps that I can bet each of us, quick delivery apps, each of us would have on our phones right now. And each of those players are going after us, and they will continue to do that. And we will be available on each of these platforms, buying something which is available on A app, buying something else which is available on B app. And we will continue to add to the 5 billion journey that they are embarking upon.
The market remains same.
The only question is, you're talking about a time of ESG in companies. There can be environmental and social goals. I mean, this has to be a social goal that you don't exactly have people in slavery to you. You don't have people, you are bonded labor to you because they have no other option or where to go anywhere. Yeah, sure, they don't have any other option, but you don't have to be the way you are. You can subsidize them in a much better way. If you can find a better business model of working this out. So it's really up to the companies now to find solutions that are humanly sustainable, if I may.
Oh, absolutely, humanly sustainable. We have to find solutions that are sustainable. It's a human cost that quick delivery apps are paying at this point in time. People who continue to suffer. There is very little recourse in law. Most of these people are freelancers. They are not contractual. Makes it very difficult for them to get an avenue, get a solution to their big problem. In this case, in case of Blinkit specifically, it's the cut in the revenue model. It's the cut in the incentive structure that they were getting. They were getting up till 25 rupees. They'll now be getting 15 rupees for every delivery. Many of them are on roads at this point in time, and they continue to protest. We don't know when they will call off the protest, but that's an important story we will continue to track here. Karthik, Krishna, thanks very much for joining us on that big story. We're going to shift focus for now, the aviation sector, and that is buzzing again with air traffic soaring in March. Domestic airlines carried a record 13 million passengers last month, indicating higher air travel penetration. The rise in flyers is down to the spurt in regional turboprop flight operations. Now, India has been an outlier in regional aviation connectivity, with the number of regional jet flights rising by 4% in 2022 to 1,82,000 from 1,75,000 in 2019, while globally there has been a slump of nearly 35%. So globally there's a slump, but India continues to shine bright. The aspirational Indian passenger is taking to skies with great enthusiasm, and the figures paint a very happy picture for stakeholders. After Air India's mega deal and plans to create world-class hubs, the aviation sector is making the right noises here in India. My colleague Shomolo will be joining us very, very shortly. But remember, it's a very important story here for India, as more passengers are taking to skies, even if globally there is a slump of nearly 35%. And what we are given to understand and hope is that aspirational passengers will be taking to skies more often and with greater enthusiasm. Remember, this has been a trend as of March, April, where more and more people go out, they take to skies, and we are hoping that this will continue. Shomolo, I want to begin by asking you, what helps with this trend? We know that this has been continuing. It happens every year on year. March, April is the time period where more people travel, more people take to skies. What exactly leads to it?
Thanks, Shweta, for having me on the show. There has been, obviously, it seems that the pre-COVID, so the post-COVID blues are right now for the Indian Airlines, yes. And we are seeing air traffic back with a vengeance, and a part of it is due to the March season, where results are out and people want to go out and visit the holiday places. But the major point here is that the airlines, especially the buzz that is in the sector, it's of a positive environment right now, and the airlines are trying to cash in on it. And we We can also see that with new airlines coming in, with Akasa obviously capturing on-time performance, and it has left behind its peers in that one. Jet also, hopefully some months down the line we'll see some positive news on that front. Air India trying to bulk up its connectivity with the aircraft orders. So all in all, I think this is a good time for the aviation sector, and we can only see it going from strength to strength in the coming months ahead.
Okay. Amir Joshi, who's an aviation expert, joining us at this point in time. Amir, thanks very much. First up, what do you think of the airlines that need to ensure the momentum does not fritter away? What exactly should they be doing at this point in time to keep the momentum going in the aviation space?
Hey, thanks for having me here. Well, from an airline's perspective, it is important that the grounded aircraft, especially two airlines which are facing challenges on the engine front, they work with the OEMs to ensure that you have the engine replacements and fleet up and running. Because as we lead into the peak season of May, that's when we have the peakest traffic. Traditionally, we've had 2 months, May and December, which have seen peakest single month traffic ever. And as we lead into these seasons, more and more aircraft coming online would mean that we have that ability to carry more passengers and ensure that we have higher load factors and reach few more records in terms of monthly passenger numbers. The Q1, which recently ended, the data for which was declared yesterday, has been the best ever Q1 in a calendar year. Now, traditionally, Jan to March has not been the highest of quarters. It leads into the exam season. The weather is not at its best, so we have always had the April, May, June and the October, November, December quarters, which have had the peakest of traffic. But when you look at post-COVID, things have absolutely changed, been topsy-turvy at times. But then we are in a position now where we say that the Q1 is the best ever in the history of Indian aviation.
Okay. Why do you think that has happened, Amir?
Yeah.
What has led to that?
We are still looking at revenge travel as one of the prime drivers when it comes to traffic. There has been a return of business travel, there has been a return of revenge travel to some extent, and it has only been recently. I mean, we're just completing a year that we're seeing international travel returning. So a lot of people who wanted to travel internationally or come to India to visit family and friends have now got an opportunity to come back after 2 or 3 years, which also spurs traffic internally, because you don't just come to one place. You also look at visiting your family and friends across the country, and or take a short holiday while you are here. So that also spurs traffic at times when the traditional, the traditional holiday traffic is not going on because of the exam season and so on.
Okay, Shom, what do you understand by revenge travel? It's an interesting concept, more in talks, becomes a part of, and in fact became a part of our everyday sort of communication only during and after COVID. What do we understand by revenge travel?
I think in that prospect, I think I hope it doesn't happen, but with the rising COVID cases, I think that is going to bottle up more for people down the future. I think, and given the cases rising, I think they might also plan some travel or postpone some travel plans in the near future. I think, as Amir said, obviously revenge travel is something that a lot of aspirational middle class Indians who have plans, who have made plans, who had made previous plans, but where they had to scuttle it down due to COVID, and they absolutely had to push it down for a couple of years. I think they took the first opportunity, and once they realized that the vaccination was done and the environment was safe for travel, they ventured. And when the traffic opened up, they obviously ventured to destinations which they had in their mind in pre-COVID time. So in that case, I think that is something that is going to stay on for another year or two, until unless we see more. Obviously, COVID is something that we have to live with, and as we see, cases are rising on a daily basis, and obviously the threat level has petered out, but revenge travel is set to continue. And with the rising disposable income, I think there are people, a set of citizens, who would now want to swear by the YOLO thing, and I think it is set to bolster the sector in that way.
Okay. Amir, has the Udan scheme been successful in its mission of expanding aviation travel base?
Definitely, yes. I mean, if you look at pure numbers, there are ways of looking at it. Pure numbers will say that airlines have not been able to operate as many routes as they were awarded. Early in the scheme, we also had hiccups with airlines which bid for it and won the routes, not even surviving after a period of time. But when you look at it over a longer period of time, the scheme started sometime in 2017. Of course, the 2.5 years of COVID was a big challenge. But you see a lot of new airports have opened up. Now you have so many airports in Northeast which earlier were not reachable at all, were not on the air map, and some more airports in airports like Darbhanga, Kishangarh. These airports were there. They were not built for the scheme. Just that there was no way to attract airlines to it. And now you see that places like Darbhanga, you have lesser number of Udan flights, and the gateway has been more towards non-Udan flights as well. So the scheme in its true sense envisions that you commoditize aviation in a way that people will come to you even without the subsidized tickets. And at some places, it has been very successful in attracting traffic much more than what had been envisioned. Now, like any other scheme, you can't have 100% success rate. So there have been routes, there have been airports, and there have been airlines which have collapsed. The collapse of TrueJet, for example, led to a closure of at least 5 or 6 airports where only TrueJet was operating. But those are things which will happen with any scheme. So if you look at it independently, where we are looking at how many passengers were added to the network, how did the overall airline network in India grow, it was massive when it came to Udan. You had Indigo join, break away from its old thought of single fleet, sign up for ATR and then go into the hinterland just to sign up for Udan and add passengers, add route network, add stations to its wide network. You had SpiceJet do that, Jet Airways before it went bust, of course, they also signed up for this scheme and started some new routes. So you have a lot of new airlines, routes, airports coming up because of this. And when you look at it retrospectively, they have been success. Of course, as I said, you have short sectors from Delhi which have not been able to continue beyond the 3 years period where you had subsidy to operate that. But that's because of different challenges. I mean, they're very short. You've really not been able to get people to move from road to air. And now, as we go by what the government keeps saying, the shorter distances will have really good 6 and 8 lane connectivity. So, no Udan or no Udan, probably the shorter flights are always going to be in pressure over the next 5 to 6 years as we see improvement in road connectivity.
Okay. Shamalu, the story of aviation sector is quite concurrent to the story of aspirational India. An India that looks at flying in the skies, an India that wants to go beyond riding scooters and bikes and taxis on the road. And with the spurt in the number of flyers that we're looking now, what sort of journey are we looking at for aviation sector panning forward? What's exactly prompting more and more people? Because, as we were discussing, many of the benefits that were given on flight tickets have been taken off, but more and more people continue to aspire to take to skies.
I think the point that you said, aspiration, I think that is very deeply connected to with another word called seamless. And if you see, I mean, a major section of the population is right now demanding clean and seamless travel. And I think that is one point where the government has also realized that in its thrust to ensure air connectivity to smaller cities and towns, they have been able to tap a section of the population which is willing to pay more and in fact enjoy the travel experience, which was not the case with rail travel for a long time. Obviously, there are premium trains, but they do not connect to every cities and towns in a time that the passenger wants. So, in that way, we've seen air travel come a long way in this country, and it will grow from here on because the government wants to make India one of the growing hubs in Southeast Asia.
Okay, and we are the most populous country in
absolutely,
the world.
Yeah. Today, that milestone we've achieved. I don't know whether I should be proud or not, but absolutely, that helps in keeping the sector throttling ahead.
Absolutely. Amir, there's also been a charter about India now primed to take on Middle East nations in aviation connectivity. How do you think we are placed?
Yeah, I think there is a long way to go when it comes to taking on Middle East, when it comes to connectivity. Air India had just placed an order, so we're still some time away, few years away from getting those planes physically into the country. Beyond that, there are other things. So we need infrastructure. Places like say Dubai or Singapore have very seamless travel between their terminals. So you could really connect between 45 to 60 minutes from one international flight to another, which is missing today in the two large airports in the country. That is something which we'll have to work on. And of course, in terms of quality, it's not quantity, but it's quality which defines how can you post the passenger. So Air India will of course take time to reach the service levels which are competitive enough to take on the likes of Emirates, Etihad and Qatar Airways on this side of the country, and the likes of Singapore Airlines on the other side. Now, of course, Singapore Airlines will have a 25.1% stake in the combined Air India starting next March when Vistara merges with Air India. So there could be a lot of more cooperation coming in. But if you look at it purely from what the passengers expect, there's still a long way to go. Currently Air India is investing time and efforts in fixing what is there in the planes. When we have more planes, we have engineering sorted out, that's when we'll see that change.
Okay. Before I let you go, Ameya and Shomalu, as a passenger myself, and I think it's a common experience for all passengers, two things that we look at are cheaper tickets and better amenities. What can the government do at this point in time to make that happen?
I think foremost we need more airlines, obviously, as you said, population.
Not many players.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we need robust players also. You cannot just have an Indigo or an Air India. We see the likes of Goya and SpiceJet. They are always in the news for the wrong reasons, fracas with passengers, flights cancellations. I think that is one thing that the government needs to address. I know, obviously, as Mr. Modi said, that it's not the government's business to run an airline. Obviously, that aspect is there. But in a country like India...
Whose business is it? Because it's not a money-making business.
No, absolutely. I mean, obviously, we're all
the
aware
biggest
of
the aviation players saying if you want to lose your money, take up to aviation business.
Yeah, absolutely. But a country like India, which wants to become an aviation powerhouse, you need more airlines. That's the bottom of the, problem that we need to address.
Okay. Ameya?
Yeah, I think having more airlines is just part of the problem. We have other challenges. For example, the ATF rates are very high. Now the government has worked with states to reduce taxation on that, but there has been a long pending demand to get it under GST, which has been really pending for a very, very long time. So are we going to move in that direction? What are we doing to ease the congestion at our airports? Because that eats into a lot of time and efforts for the airlines, which translates into cost. So focusing on infrastructure, focusing on reducing cost and taxation, and ensuring that we have a level playing field when it comes to the foreign airlines which are coming versus our airlines looking to expand, will be the three big things to go forward and be a hub. I would not really agree we need more airlines. We actually need more healthier airlines. So instead of starting from scratch and trying to build a network which can compete with the bigger players, which is very cost intensive, we should look at ensuring that we have airlines which are in the doldrums or not being pushed on the financial side. How can they be stable? Because otherwise we end up with the cycle which we have seen for so long. A new one comes, pushes you out, then another new one comes and pushes you out, and there is one rare Indigo and one rare Air India which are surviving and going ahead. Of course, Air India was funded by the government, and now it's private, but that is how it has been so far. So slow and steady, but more profitable.
Ameya, but I just want to come in. You said healthier airlines. SpiceJet and Goya, we all are aware of the troubles that they are facing. Right. In that case, Akasa, it has taken baby steps, but there's still a long way to go for it to ensure a profitable path. So in that case, how do you think, like telecom, if we in aviation are stuck with only two robust players, how do you think, even given, because I don't see things improving at SpiceJet or Goya in the near future or in the short period of time. So how do you think we can address this challenge? Because passengers, many of them...
Not many options with passengers.
So you need more options. So how do you as a government, how can stakeholders ensure that the common man, when he's booking a ticket, if he is not getting an Indigo or an Air India flight, what option does he have?
Right. I think, no, it is not for the policy makers or government to look for options per se, because if you look at it, Indigo today has 40% of its network which is monopoly and people are still flying. Does it impact the ticket fares, ticket prices? Yes, it definitely does. So it's also for the likes of Akasa or Go Air or SpiceJet to model their network so that they can take on the competition. But is it profitable? Now the challenge in Indian skies have been everybody tries to have the lowest cost, and 2 or 3 airlines have not been able to have that because of legacy issues. When they were new, at some point of time, they were equally agile. They were taking on the competition which existed at that point of time, which sadly is no more in the air today, be it Jet Airways, Sahara, Air Deccan or Kingfisher Airlines. So these were the airlines which SpiceJet and Go First was tackling when they started or began operations. Now, how do we ensure that Akasa or any new airline which is starting now doesn't end up in a similar situation 10 or 12 years down the line? So how does it remain financially stable, viable in the next decade? And that can be done by these measures like ensuring that you have better control over taxation, ensuring you have better operational control over airports, and investing in that to ensure that your aviation infrastructure is going. So that's where you are going to have more flights. If you look at most of the top airports, they are congested. So that is something which the government can work with the private players, and in some cases their own government enterprise.
Okay, lots of challenges there ahead for the aviation sector. It's looking good at this point in time, but working on congestion, profitability of airlines is going to be a top priority for aviation players in India. Ameya, Shomalu, thanks very much for joining in with all those details. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business Plus. Keep watching News9. Thank you.
If you are 75 and a BJP leader, chances are you'll join the veterans at the Marg Darshak Mandal, a retirement home. But when it comes to B.S. Yediyurappa, the BJP pulled him out of retirement to lead the party in the 2023 Karnataka Assembly elections.
Age has nothing to do with Yediyurappa ji.
The first chief minister to go to prison, no?
Whether you like him or hate him, you can't ignore him.
As election frenzy grips Karnataka, the four-time chief minister is someone the BJP can't do without if it wants to retain power. The man whose hand Prime Minister Narendra Modi is holding is B.S. Yediyurappa.
येदियुरप्पा जी ने अभी पिछले हफ्ते कर्नाटका असेंबली में जो भाषण दिया, वो सार्वजनिक जीवन जीने वाले प्रत्येक व्यक्ति के लिए प्रेरणा है। हमारी आने वाली पीढ़ियों के लिए भी येदियुरप्पा जी का ये भाषण, उनका जीवन हमेशा हमेशा प्रेरणा देने वाला है।
It sent a strong message that central leaders are still with Yediyurappa. Congress was shedding tears that Yediyurappa is written off, So the BJP Delhi leaders didn't want to give that impression. So they went to Shimoga. They held his hand to show that we are with Lingayats.
Yediyurappa ji is known for hard work. Yediyurappa ji is known for commitment. Yediyurappa ji is man of word. This is how people of Karnataka recognize Yediyurappa ji. His simplicity and his humbleness. Whether he is in power or not in power, it doesn't matter to Yediyurappa ji.
People say Yediyurappa is a liability to the BJP. At the same time, BJP is not really in a position to continue its politics without Yediyurappa. See, Yediyurappa, whether you like him or hate him, you can't ignore him because his roots are very strong in the community.
He never dreamt that he will become an MLA or a minister. He never dreamt all this. But he always fought for people's cause. He always fought for farmers' issue. He always stood with poor people, and that's been his strength also. BJP was earlier known as an urban-based party in Karnataka. It's because of Yediyurappa's efforts, party is able to reach in every villages in the state of Karnataka.
1983 was a watershed in Karnataka politics. The first time the Congress continuous rule from 1956 to 83 was broken. That time, many people got elected from other than Congress, and one of them was Yediyurappa. And he never looked back thereafter.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching News 9 Live, shifting our focus to war zone-stricken Sudan. Sound of gunfire and artillery, thick plumes of black smoke and fire billowing from the army headquarters in Khartoum as war between the Sudanese military and the powerful RSF paramilitary group continues to grip the nation over who controls the country. A live shot from the Saudi-owned satellite news channel Al Arabiya showed a high-rise on fire in the Sudanese capital, with burning debris falling from its top floors. The fighting in Sudan has seen airstrikes pound its capital, Khartoum, diplomats attacked, and civilians hiding inside their homes, desperate for both food and water at one of the most important times of the year for Muslims. More than 185 people have been killed and over 1,800 have been wounded since the fighting erupted, according to United Nations figures. The battle between Sudan's military and the Rapid Support Forces, paramilitary organization born out of the militias accused of atrocities in Darfur, endangers the nascent efforts at ending decades of martial rule in the country. People have been unable to leave their homes since Saturday as the two sides engaged in gun battles and bombarded each other with artillery and airstrikes. Khartoum's hospitals have been thrown into chaos by the explosion of violence between Sudan's two top generals. At the Ahmad Qasim Children's Hospital, medical staff had to evacuate all cases except the ones in intensive care unit. Supplies were running low, with doctors, nurses, patients and their relatives trapped inside for days as the Sudanese capital turned into a war zone. On the other hand, more than 200 nomadic and semi-nomadic people of Chanagiri Taluk of Davangere district are trapped in the ongoing violence in Sudan and are suffering without food and water. India, as we're learning from the Ministry of External Affairs, is coordinating closely with various countries to ensure the safety and security of Indian nationals in Sudan. But even as Japan says it will evacuate Japanese nationals, the White House, on the other hand, says there is no such plans yet of evacuations, even as the World Health Organization and the United Nations have come down heavily condemning the hostilities in Sudan.
Sudan, are there plans to evacuate U.S. embassy personnel from there?
So, look, the U.S. Embassy in Khartoum's security alert on April 16th stated that due to uncertain security situation in Khartoum and closures of the airport, Americans should have no expectations of a U.S. government-coordinated evacuation at this time. But we expect that will remain the case.
The situation in the Republic of Sudan is deeply concerning. Sudan's Ministry of Health Emergency Operations Center reports 270 people have been killed and more than 2,600 people have been injured. Tragically, 3 workers from WFP have also been killed. I condemn all loss of life, and we stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Sudan.
Well, you're watching News 9 Live. Earlier, we saw Joe Biden and his blitzkrieg to Ukraine. We've seen Zelensky travel to various other parts. We've seen other EU nation heads going to various other countries vis-a-vis the Ukraine war. But recently, what we've learned is that Putin touched base in Russian headquarters in Kherson and Luhansk. Take a look at this. Russian drones struck Ukraine's southern Odessa region overnight and caused a fire at an infrastructure facility. The head of the military command of the Odessa region has confirmed this. 1 civilian has died and 7 others were injured as a result of the artillery fire in the southern city of Kherson, where Russian forces hit a market area. At least 3 civilians have been killed and 11 more have been wounded in Ukraine over the past 24 hours, according to Ukraine's presidential office. But even as the G7 criticizes Russia's threat to station nuclear weapons in Belarus, the Russian President Vladimir Putin visited headquarters of Russian troops in Ukraine. A video that was released on Tuesday showed Vladimir Putin visiting the command post in the southern Kherson region and showed the president receiving reports from the top military brass. He then moved by helicopter to the headquarters of the Russian National Guard in the Luhansk region. Now, the trip marked a second visit by Putin to the area in as many months. And according to Putin's spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, the visit took place on Monday, but no press agency has been able to independently verify the footage.
Указанной категории к работе готовы, генерал-полковник Лапин. Здравия желаю.
Meanwhile, to stiffen the resolve of Ukrainian soldiers battling Vladimir Putin's troops, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made a trip to positions near the front line himself. Zelensky visited units in Avdiivka, a city in Donetsk province, where fierce battles are taking place. During the visit, he heard first-hand reports about the battlefield situation and handed out awards to these soldiers as well, boosting their morale. Zelensky's visit to areas of his country that have felt the brunt of Russia's full-scale invasion gathered pace last month as he shuttled across the country, often by train. And as is with Putin, the Ukrainian leader's wartime trips usually aren't publicized until after he's already left an area. Russia's war in Ukraine has become largely deadlocked amid heavy fighting in the east, particularly around the Donetsk province city of Bakhmut, which for the last 8.5 months has been the stage for the longest and bloodiest battle so far.
Тільки перемоги, того, що бажаю кожному українцю, і те, що дійсно дуже так важливо нам всім. Бажаю зберегти себе обов'язково для України. Такі міцні люди після перемоги обов'язково впевнений, разом відбудуємо Україну.
I think the reality is that there was a huge hiring spree that happened globally.
You might reduce your electricity consumption, which will save you 1 or 2% or 0.1%. You might reduce a little office space, which will save you maybe 1 or 2%. But you reduce your staff, you save 10% overnight.
Economic reality did not force Google to lay off 12,000 of our coworkers.
Companies are trying to attract them with higher and higher salaries. And sometimes these things are also hyped.
There was a surge and a frenzied hiring that happened, particularly starting from, let's say, end 2021.
They should have seen the writing on the wall many months back and conserved cash. So what should have been done maybe 1 or 2 quarters ago, they're doing right now.
Every morning you wake up, you read the headlines, they're shouting at you, 9,000 fired, 18,000 laid off, 50,000 gone. These are not the kind of numbers that one is used to seeing in papers every day.
You are fired.
When we entered 2023, we were looking at trouble at Twitter. Elon Musk had just taken over and more than half of the global workforce had been wiped out almost instantly. Little did we know at that time that the trouble at Twitter was a very different chapter. And there was a trouble of a different kind brewing in the big tech industry in the US. And that sort of led to what I refer to as the layoff pandemic. it wasn't restricted to one company. It wasn't restricted to a few employees. It happened in thousands. And when you talk about big tech, this is an industry that drives Silicon Valley, that drives a major chunk of the global economy. And you had the likes of Meta, which was earlier called Facebook. You had the likes of Amazon, Microsoft, Google's parent Alphabet, everybody literally laying off employees in thousands. It continued to make headlines every day. There was a ticker that we were maintaining in our newsrooms, and there were more zeros added to it every day as we progressed.
I think the reality is that there was a huge hiring spree that happened globally. So I think right now everybody's realizing that they need to do more with less. I think global tech companies, they are looking at the macro environment in terms of how tech is doing, and just doing, in some cases, pruning is not a bad thing.
As far the Western companies, particularly in America, are concerned, this is a correction. If you look at the hiring they had over the last 2 years, it is enormous. They hired much more than they needed. The cost base went up. Now they're finding the revenues not growing at the same pace because many of them are getting saturated.
Well, that's part of the reason, because you focus so much just on the top line and it's growing. When that top line stops growing, then everybody starts worrying and people begin pulling out money. Or money is not, infusion is not as much as you thought. You're not even pulling out money. No investors may not pull out their money, but new investment that you expected is not coming. You suddenly realize, hey, I can't survive like this. And then you find that you've got to cut costs. And how do you cut costs? These are people companies, no? That's one of the things of this whole sector.
But even after layoff, the employee count in the tech industry is still at the same level at where it was before the pandemic started. So I don't see that as an area of big concern. The only thing that is concerning is that because the industry is maturing, we will not expect the same kind of growth we saw, say, last 3 years or last 5 years.
I don't think any of us could have foreseen what happened, that COVID coming and hitting us as badly. Ukraine, the war at Ukraine, I don't think that was something that you can factor in, right? The recent Silicon Valley Bank. So it isn't that companies don't, plan in these unforeseen, but the magnitude of these unforeseen is what is something that I don't think anyone could. If they could, I think every company would, why would somebody want to hire and then fire?